Jai Gurudev, and a very good evening to everyone, or morning, or afternoon, as the time may be in your time zones. It is extremely exciting that on Vasant Panchami Day, on Saraswati Puja Day, we are meeting for the revival of Prabhakarji's sessions on, or rather, the start of Prabhakarji's sessions on something as mystical and deep as the Sankhya Karika. uh, Prabhakar ji, nobody needs an introduction whatsoever. It's also impossible to introduce a personality like him. So I'm sure most of us know him, so this makes it a little easier. But just to welcome him, we all know who he is. I mean, he's a seat keeper, he's a landscape artist, he's the teacher and the curator of Mandala Vatika, which is how we came to know of him, perhaps most of us. And he also holds the position of chairman at the SSIAST. He is, of course, a TEDx speaker. Now, his education and awards, certainly the whole session on Sankhya Karika will be lost if we begin about that. But I think what I'd like to just say is, because I'm getting the chance, is that for someone of his myriad talents, achievements, ability, genius, the fact that he's so approachable, kind, supportive, attentive to anyone who would approach him, and so loving, and just basically shows that he's certainly not, he's a divine soul, and we're extremely lucky to be in his ambit and to learn from him and to be supported by him. So, with that, I'd like to welcome Prabhakar ji this evening. Jai Gurudev.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Jai Gurudev to everyone, and it's so lovely to be back with you. We got 127 people on this session. I mean, this is like a record by itself, and I am so overwhelmed. Thank you all for being here. And I had not planned it this way, but when originally Saraswati Mandala Vatika was blessed by Gurudev, many of us thought that we should launch it today, which was the Basanta Panchami, which is our Saraswati Puja day. And, because Gurudev asked us to put it on hold for some time, I had forgotten about it. And then Sankhya Karika was something that we had been working on. A small group of teachers, some of whom will actually, involve in the session, in this session as well as sessions to come. I wanted to revive it for a long time, and then it just happened after that little session we had on the power of the number 2025 last session, and how all of you enjoyed it so much. Unfortunately, never got recorded. But I thought that every Q&A session, let's have something of a little interest for everybody. And then I said, why not go back to Sankhya Karika? So what the format now is going to be is that it is still a Q&A session, but the Q&A session, we will try and wrap it up quickly. If you have questions, and please, I'm not trying to belittle the Q&A part of it. And then we get on to Sankhya Karika. Sankhya Karika will be a long program. It will take many sessions for us to complete Sankhya Karika. But it is just going to be so exciting for me to be a part of this interpretation of Sankhya Karika that we are going to do, which, to my knowledge, has never been done, because this requires the Guru Tattva of a living master to happen. There is just no doubt about it. And you will see why I have said this as a pre-qualification to start with. So what we will do is, the format that I will have is that keep putting questions about Mandala Vatika course which you have registered or you're doing, or whatever you have done. Mandala Vatika questions, just put it on the chat. Somebody like Tanya or something will keep track of it. And in the end of this session, we will allot a certain amount of time so that we answer those questions. And whoever I am not able to answer, I will respond to you one-on-one on WhatsApp. So that is going to be more or less the format. So to start Sankhya Karika, I would like now to invite Leela, and Leela ji will do the Purna Mantra. And there is a reason why we do the Purna Mantra for Sankhya Karika. And so I would like her to just chant the Purna Mantra so that we officially start the session of Sankhya Karika. Okay. And please, Leela ji, the floor is yours.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you so much, Leela. That was just so gorgeous, so beautiful. You know, it all falls into place. I mean, that's the beauty of this journey with our master. You know, somehow everything falls into place. And when I started Sankhya Karika, there was a certain anecdote that I started with. And that anecdote becomes very special because my birthday just recently happened. Okay. And, you know, a lot of people who knew me, etc., you know, sent me the wishes, and my office wanted to celebrate it and things like that. And I kept telling to them that, you know, after 68 birthdays, it is another day, you know. So thank you very much. But, you know, I can do without the celebration part of it. But, you know, nonetheless, let's share camaraderie, let's share this space, and, you know, we will be lovely. But why I mentioned this is my own understanding of this birthday was very, very influenced by something Gurudev told on one of his birthdays some time ago, years ago. So a lot of people, it was his birthday, and, you know, May Tera, and everybody was, you know, happy birthday, Gurudev, and this and that. And then, you know, he said something that really struck me. He said, you know, you celebrate a birthday or any event in your life. When you celebrate it, it is a celebration of the limitation of your knowledge. I mean, this blew my mind. When he said that, I was like dumbstruck because it hit me what he was saying. He said, because. So it goes back to the example of a pot, yeah, a clay pot. As long as you identify yourself with the pot, which is, let's say, my body, if I identify myself with the body, then celebrating my birthday is very meaningful. But it means I'm celebrating a limitation in my knowledge, because what I should be celebrating is the space inside the pot. And that space existed before the pot was made. It will exist after the pot is made. So Gurudev in that event said, do you remember when you were born? None of us actually remember when we are born. He says the same thing will happen. You will never remember when you will die. After you die, you don't remember when you die because you were never born, you never die. When you celebrate that which is inside the pot, then every moment is a celebration, every moment is a birthday. And that struck with me. I mean, it stuck with me, and even my family knows that. I can celebrate other people's birthdays, but somehow when it comes to me, I mean, it's there, but it's not like, the biggest thing that happens to me. But that was what Gurudev said. Celebration of your birthday or your death anniversary or whatever anniversaries or whatever events that are having in life is actually a celebration of your limitation of understanding what is. The pot is not the key. The space inside the pot is key. And if you celebrate that space, it doesn't matter whether the pot was made or not. It is always there. It is everywhere. That is Sankhya Karika. So Sankhya Karika is really extraordinary. It's the oldest text we have. And when you start to explore this text will blow your mind, because what Gurudev said so simply on his birthday, you will experience. The moment you have destroyed that limitation that you are the pot, everything changes. I'll give you a small example. A lot of you think that I have a lot of knowledge. Yeah. Many of my students will tell me, sir, if we ask you anything about anything, you will know. It is a siddhi that comes from that understanding that my knowledge is not limited to what is in this brain. It is actually, I actually believe that, because when I need knowledge, I just access it. People will appear in my life. In Nasadiya Sukta, when we were doing, some boy appeared through, I never used LinkedIn in my life. That time he appeared on LinkedIn, some message he had sent, some cross connection, something. And then he happened to be a student with, I think, the ISKCON group or something like that, who was exploring in Bhagavatam, he was exploring Nasadiya Sukta. And suddenly knowledge appears. So whether it is my architecture, whether it is my agriculture, whether it is Mandala Vatika or whatever, I firmly believe that whatever I know is not limited to what is in my head. I focus on the space inside the pot. This is a pot only. So inside this pot, there is space. Now, the moment I focus on that, my knowledge actually becomes unlimited. And it is not an ego statement that I'm making. It's actually my experience. Because I don't identify with this, that becomes. So imagine in life, if we don't identify ourselves with the pot, then everything changes. When students of architecture, young architects, just finished architecture or finishing architecture come to me, my only job is to break their expectation of what the profession will offer. They come with long lot of anxiety. What kind of job I am going to get? I will get an entry-level architecture, then I will move up slowly, then I'll become mid-level, all this. My job is just to blow their mind and say that, no, what you will have in your profession is infinite. What you can expect from your profession is infinite. And channel them to that. And I can see the results. I can see the results. In my life, so many people I have mentored. I can see the result of that. Because the moment you destroy that limited thinking, suddenly something very big becomes available to us. And then we are here trying to hold on to this pot. Me, I, all this. And celebrating limitations, celebrating ignorance. Something happens in our life, we are celebrating. Something doesn't happen in our life, we are depressed. Either way, we are celebrating. Either positively or negatively, we are celebrating. you know. So Sankhya Karika is one of the technologies which does away with everything else. It deals with logic, mathematics, and pure understanding. It is so 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4. It is mathematical, but we have to get there. So when we talk about this, no, so now let me do a small screen share of some things that I have put together. So, I have spoken about this a lot of times. Yeah. And see, I have no doubt that more than 11,000, see, 11,000 years ago, there was that great melt, the glacier, the ice melt was there. And then there was a big flood and all that, everything, got destroyed, and then slowly life came back. Okay. Now, science says that we actually settled down to do agriculture only 10,000 years ago. And then from there, we have evolved. And I keep saying this in my Mandalavatika courses and in my Vedic agriculture courses, that we had some extraordinary knowledge. Indus Valley civilization now is dating back to 40,000 years. 40,000 years. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, they are dating it back now huge, some 75,000 years. That means there were very advanced civilizations which had beautiful knowledge, which somehow we lost. Something happened in this ice melt or whatever, that we lost that particular knowledge. So those of you who have been watching Netflix lately, so we have this beautiful documentary, Graham Hancock, he has done some fantastic documentary where he actually documents that there were very advanced civilizations tens of thousands of years ago. Somewhere something happened, and it is called the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. So what it actually means is that there were meteors which struck the earth at some point of time, which is roughly about 11,000 years ago. And that caused some severe global warming and melting of the ice. Everything got flooded. All the great canyons, your Black Canyon and all the canyons were formed, and everything, the levels of the oceans rose by tens of meters. The levels of the oceans rose, and the whole landscape of the earth changed. And somehow there, people started from scratch again, but there were some survivors of the earlier civilization who came and gave some precious knowledge to these people who started from scratch. And if you see that now there is some major cosmic impact that happened roughly around 11,000 years ago, and there was a climate change, then a lot of human culture and all the plants and animals and so many things got changed. And today we can actually see this as records in excess platinum quench melted materials. That means some very high temperature happened, and then they got covered by water, and nano diamond deposits and other things. And what we can see is that actually this something happened that really shook a very advanced civilization or civilizations across the earth. And that is what we are now talking about. When we talk about other knowledge, our starting point in our Hindu knowledge culture is the Vedas. Okay. And our Vedas till today are known to be the best repositories of our knowledge. Sankhya Karika has got something special. Do you know how long ago Sankhya Karika is dated? 35,400 years. Some texts refer to it as 32,000, but then there is somebody who did astronomical mapping for dating Sankhya Karika based on informations that are there, and he dates it at 35,400 years old. Yeah. So this is something, even to me, see, this kind of exploration is only possible because of the Guru Tattva of a living master. Take it from me, this kind of exploration cannot happen without that. It is His grace that channels us to explore something like this. Okay. Now, I am saying 35,400 years, but what happens when you Google Sankhya Karika, for example? You get something else. You get something that is only, okay, let me come to that. I will get somebody to come in when that is required. So what we are now looking at is knowledge that predates tens of thousands of years, where people knew the truth. They did not have to invent deities or rituals or anything. And their truth was that there is only one universal intelligence. Sankhya Karika does not even need to create gods and other things. It says creation happened mathematically, logically, because of an inherent intelligence. We have names for that. By the time we came to the Vedic period, we gave a name for that. But we will come to that later. Sankhya Karika is exploring without emotion, without feeling, just mathematically. That is the power of Sankhya Karika. So when we go here, what happens? Sankhya Karika, it is, many scholars believe that it actually predates the Vedas and Upanishads. And somewhere here, there is a tribe called the Vratyas. Vratyas are very, very, very interesting. Vratyas were certain wandering, you can say, people. Yeah. They had knowledge from the earlier civilizations. They were survivors of that earlier civilizations who had that knowledge, understanding of the ultimate truth. And they used to come from time to time and pass on this knowledge, which then the surviving human population collated as our Vedic knowledge. And from there, all our traditions started. But these people never associated themselves with the Vedic rituals and all that. They did not even need rituals. Their understanding was so superior that they don't even have to invoke something. They are that. What in our Vedic tradition we invoke, these people already are that. Like Jata Vedo, we say in our homas, we will say Jata Vedo. That is Agni, yeah, the Tattva of Agni. We will say, Jata Vedo, please tell me, give me guidance, give me protection. For them, they were already Jata Vedos. Whatever we invoke in Vedas, they were already that. And it is that knowledge which is there in Sankhya Karika. Okay. So now what we will do is we will quickly understand a lot. Actually, there are 26 teachers of Sankhya Karika. We have sage Kapila, and Tanya will actually tell us more about the sage Kapila. That is 35,400 years ago. Then we have got Asuri, who did commentaries. So they are all commentators. So about 1800 years ago, there was Asuri. After that, there were series of them. There is many, even Gaudapada, for example, gave a commentary on Sankhya Karika. And the last one, around 1700 years ago, we have Ishwara Krishna. Okay. Today, if you Google anything in Sankhya Karika, you will only get Ishwara Krishna. But the guy who had the distilled knowledge was Rishi Kapila. Very interesting, this character. 35,400 years ago. This guy is an amazing thing. So very quickly, I'll invite Tanya to give her presentation. She'll share a PPT and give a presentation of who this guy was.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Let me just present my screen. Yeah. Okay. I'll be speaking about Sage Kapila. Sage Kapila was, of course, a renowned sage. He is the propounder of the philosophical system of Sankhya. And our source of information, where do we learn about Sage Kapila from? Sage Kapila is actually mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or what is known as the Bhagavat Puran. So quickly, through a few slides, what we will be going through is the life story of Sage Kapila, and very interesting story on who was his first student. Then, who was this seer really? When we look at the Bhagavad Puran, what does the Bhagavad Puran tell us about Sage Kapila? Also, we have Lord Krishna mentioning Sage Kapila in the Bhagavad Gita, and we also have Swami Vivekanand talking about him. So we'll discuss that briefly. And then we come to Ishwara Krishna, who has already been mentioned. So we'll just go to the next slide. Yeah. So if we look at his life story, his parents were Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So his father was actually an ascetic and his mother was a princess. It is said that his mother, was aware of his divinity. It is said that Lord Brahma revealed his divinity to her even before he was born. And after he was born, when he was a little older, his father actually renounced the world. So he left, and he left entrusted, his upbringing to, to his wife, Devahuti. It is said that she approached her divine son and expressed a desire for spiritual enlightenment because she knew who he was, and he agreed for this. And in fact, his first student, very interestingly, was his mother. So this is what we hear about the life story. Now, when we look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, what is said about Kapil Muni. So this is just a quote from there. Although he is unborn, the supreme personality of Godhead took birth as Kapil Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. So this is how the Bhagavad Puran talks about Kapil Rishi. When we look at the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 10, there is a chapter in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about what is the best of everything. So, among all trees, I am the banyan tree. Among all the divine seers, I am Narad. So, among the Gandharvas, among the singers of the gods, I am Chitrarath. And among the perfected beings, that is Siddhanam, among the Siddhas, I am Sage Kapil. So, what Lord Krishna is saying is that the most perfected being that he knows of is Kapil. If we look at what Swami Vivekanand has to say about Kapil Muni, I know people are joining from all over the world, so if I can just briefly just tell you that Swami Vivekanand is a very renowned philosopher, author, and religious teacher, and he introduced Vedant and yoga to the Western world. He had presented a very important landmark, presentation about Vedant and yoga in the 1893 Parliament of Religions in Chicago. So, what he had to say about Kapil Muni is also very interesting. He said he was the greatest psychologist the world had ever known, has ever known, and he also said there is no philosophy in the world that is not indebted to Kapil. So I think again, tracing that roots, that origins, and as Prabhakarji is now telling us that pre-Vedic, roots and origins is something that Swami Vivekanand identified. The next slide, of course, is the Guru Shishya Parampara, and this is something I think Prabhakarji already presented regarding Ishvara Krishna, because as I said, Sankhya Karika, the text of Sankhya Karika, which means the verses of Sankhya philosophy, are recorded in written form in this text, which has been attributed to Ishvara Krishna. So that's it from my end. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you so much, Tanya. You've done wonderful research and it's great. So what is happening here is Rishi Kapila was none other than the creator of the universe itself. So he actually manifested to convey the truth of creation to people. That's why he came and took birth. So when Kapila talks, he is the infinite. He is the space inside the pot. When Ashtavakra talks and creates the Ashtavakra Gita, he never identified himself with his pot, the body. Because if he was the body, then he was Vakra. He never identified. He identified himself as the space inside this body. Similarly, when Kapila talks, he is the space inside the body. Now what happens is that something which I have suspected for a long time. Whatever you Google today, you will either read it as Sankhya Karika or Samkhya Karika, and it is all attributed to Ishvara Krishna. Now, Ishvara Krishna is again a very interesting character. Ishvara Krishna did the commentary, but that was only 1800 years ago. Now, what happens to commentaries is like this. They adapt it for the society at that time. They take the knowledge of Kapila. See, nobody, even Ishvara Krishna, attributes it to Kapila. But Kapila's text doesn't exist. It's only Ishvara Krishna's that is existing with us. So, while he attributes everything to Kapila, his commentary and interpretations are for those times where the focus is on the pot, not in the space. So if you look at all the interpretations of Ishvara Krishna's Samkhya Karika or Sankhya Karika, it talks about the generations much after the Vedas. It is in the world where people are struggling. People find happiness, people find sadness, people are stuck. People want escape from the cycle of life and death. So, our Ishvara Krishna gives it to them as Sankhya Karika. Ishvara Krishna is very interesting. See, in the earlier, Ishvara Krishna, in his earlier incarnation, was Kalidasa. No, Kalidasa's earlier incarnation is Ishvara Krishna. See, Kalidasa came much later. So Kalidasa's earlier incarnation was Ishvara Krishna, and he was also a poet. So he creates Sankhya Karika as a poem. He creates Sankhya Karika as a poem. And in the true tradition of those times, very interestingly, Sankhya Karika is actually having um, one second, let me just get back to, yeah. So Sankhya Karika actually goes on to, it has the Arya Chandas. It has actually a rhythm. It has a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like that. When Leela actually will chant the Sankhya Karika to you, you will find that it has a beat. Unlike Nasadiya Sukta, Nasadiya Sukta has laya. Importance is on the syllable. Nasadasi, no sada, asi, tadani. That is all syllablic. Sankhya, Ishvara Krishna Sankhya Karika is set as a poem with a meter. So if there is a dirgha like it becomes 2 beats. Unlike a Nasadiya Sukta, it's a laya. It's a very cosmic rhythm that is there. In Sankhya Karika of Ishvara Krishna, it is a poem. It can be even, you can even have a dance to it. It is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The beat goes on. Now, what is very interesting is how Ishvara Krishna interprets. Yeah. So the very first shloka is very interesting. So what I will do in this series is, I will do the interpretation of Ishvara Krishna, because that satisfies a lot of people's spiritual requirement to understand, why we have, suffering and this and pain and all these things. It satisfies that. But at the same time, I will do the interpretation from Kapila Rishi's Sankhya Sutras. See, there is a big difference between the Sankhya Sutra and the Sankhya Karika. Sankhya Sutra was given by Rishi Kapila from a space of knowing he is the infinite. Ishvara Krishna's commentary, Sankhya Karika, was something that he did a commentary on Kapila, but gave it to the people who at that time required the knowledge in this another format. Extraordinary. In this series, with only the grace of a living master, we want to go to that 35,400 years ago. How did those people live? See, when it comes to Nasadiya Sukta and all, we are at the Indus Valley, that area, that time, 25,000, 40,000, 25,000 years ago. Now we are going 35,400 years. God only knows beyond that also what there is. There may have been many civilizations even before the ice ages. There may have been, we don't know. But at least definitely before this meteorite strike 11,000 years ago, there was very advanced civilization. I want to know how they understood. That is what Kapila Rishi Kapila has given in Sankhya Sutras, not Sankhya Karika. Sankhya Karika is recent. It is our Ishvara Krishna's. Nothing to take away from Ishvara Krishna. Ishvara Krishna is a great commentator, but he had to give a knowledge for what the people required at that time. So we will do that interpretation also, and then we will do something that probably has not been done, which is interpreted through the eyes of Rishi Kapila. So, if we go to the interpretation of our Ishvara Krishna's Sankhya Karika, this is the first stanza, and at this point, I will invite our Nightingale to chant the first shloka of Sankhya Karika.
दुःखत्रयाभिघातात् जिज्ञासा तदपघातके हेतौ दृष्टे सा पार्थाच्चेन् नैकान्तात्यन्ततो भावात् दृष्टवदानुश्रविकः सह्यविशुद्धिक्षयातिशयमुक्तः तद्विपरीतः श्रेयान् व्यक्ताव्यक्तज्ञविज्ञानात्.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you so much. We couldn't have done this without you. So, what is happening here? Let us see how Ishvara Krishna starts. Dukkha-traya. He says, there are three main sufferings, sorrows, and miseries. Three types of suffering, sorrows, and miseries. And abhigata. So, dukkha-traya abhigata. So, there are three main types of suffering, sorrows, miseries, anguish, grief, suffering due to pain. And jignyasa, that is, if you have the desire and longing, that desire and longing will help you in removing and killing the pain, the misery, and the cause. That is heta, that is all the methods for removing the pain, misery. If the jigyasa is right, see, Kapila's mother had the jigyasa, she had the right qualities of a seeker, which is why when she asked Rishi Kapila, he gave her the whole truth as Sankhya Sutras. Now, here also, Ishvara Krishna says, Dukkha-traya. That means there are three causes of misery, pain, anguish, blah, 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 all the things that pull you down in life. If you have the right jigyasa, then the methods to remove them are revealed. Beautifully done. Okay. And he goes on to say that dukkha, what is dukkha? From the very time a child is born, there is the pain of the birth and blah, 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 blah. And he says now there are three types of miseries. One is adi bhautika. That means misery is caused by other living things in this world. Like one mosquito bites you and you get a dengue. That is adi bhautika misery. That suffering is because of adi bhautika. Adi daivika. That means acts of God. That is, misery is caused by tsunamis, floods, climate change. All these things are the second type of misery. Adhyatmika, the third type of misery, is due to the workings of your own mind in ignorance. Okay? Everything is fine, but you think somebody is thinking bad of you and you become miserable. That is only your own cause. So three types of miseries he identifies, and he says there is no other kind of misery. There is either only three types. He is 100% right. He says there is misery that is caused by other living things. Then there is misery which is act of God. And there is misery which you inflict upon yourself. Three types. There is no other type. So he says, if the jigyasa is correct, so what he pre-qualifies very clearly, he says, after all that I will teach you in Sankhya Karika, if you still don't get it, don't blame Sankhya Karika or Kapila Rishi. Your spirit of inquiry is not correct. Your jigyasa is not correct. So that is what he says. Okay. And the whole Sankhya Karika is based upon these three types of miseries. Okay. So essentially, he goes on to say that genuineness, aptness expected of a seeker in order to achieve his goal and finding a permanent cure for all the suffering in the world, there has to be an intense quest. And once you have this quest, then you will not have any suffering in your life. This is Ishvara Krishna's interpretation of Rishi Kapila's Sankhya Sutras, given to people 1800 years ago as Sankhya Karika, basically because by that time, our society had become very ritualistic. We had all kinds of taboos, do's and don'ts, and everything was full tension. Your life was tension. From morning to night, from birth to death, full tension, full misery, full unhappiness, dissatisfaction, anguish, pain. So he gave all this knowledge to remove that. But what he did was he gave a limited understanding of the infinite wisdom of Rishi Kapil. And even today on the internet, wherever you Google Sankhya Karika or Samkhya Karika, you will find Ishvara Krishna's and this interpretation. It starts with three types of miseries. Dukkha, it starts with the word dukkha. But we have a living master. And with his Guru Tattva, we can explore what was there in Rishi Kapila's sutras. The same shloka, the same sutra, not shloka, the same sutra. There are 68 sutras. The same sutra in Sankhya Sukta gives completely a different picture. What is that? Let us try to understand. There, Sankhya is a scientific unification. It's the acme of scientific unification. It is based on axiomatic knowledge. What is axiomatic knowledge? When something is true in such an obvious way, you don't need evidence to show it is true. It is self-similar, self-variant, uses combinatorial mathematics. All derivations start from the basic, and internal proof is based on axioms. This is Rishi Kapila's. Rishi Kapila was a mathematician. He did not have time for all this pain and misery, suffering, escaping from cycle of birth and death, because he was already infinite. There is no focus on the pot. He is straight telling you what that space is. So he says that I will take you baby steps. I will start from the basics. And I will use axiomatic knowledge. Axiomatic knowledge means if I say 1 plus 1 is 2, it applies to everything across the universe. Whether it is one apple, whether it is one country, whether it is 1 rupee, $1, one bus, one car, 1 plus 1 is always 2. You don't need proof. He starts from something that does not need proof and then builds. it is self-variant across scales. Where did we hear this? In fractals. Yatha pindam tatha brahmandam. That is beautifully said in our Vedas. It is self-variant across scales. Whether it is the smallest quark or subatomic particle to the massive objects of the cosmos, galaxies and super galaxies and whatever. Rishi Kapila says, my truth works across. Even today's physics and mathematics does not work across. Even our scientific understanding with the Large Hadron Collider, we still have that small quantum world, and then we've got this large material world, and somewhere we are still trying to unify, having to have one thing that says applies across the scales. We still haven't found it in science. But 35,400 years ago, Rishi Kapila knew it. So he says that whatever I will tell you, I will need to show you this self-similar, not self-variant, self-similar scale invariant. So scale invariant. That means the scale can be anything, but it will always be self-similar. What is combinatorial mathematics? Combinatorial mathematics is if I say 1 plus 1 is 2, and if I say 2 plus 2 is 4, then 2 plus 4 is the same as 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2. It is combinatorial mathematics. So he says, I will teach you baby steps how this universe was created and how this universe is sustained, how this universe continues, how you are not the pot, you are that space in the universe. Then who is the pot? What is the role of the pot? All that will become clear to you. And then you don't have to worry about life, death, and suffering and pain and all that, because I will give you the full understanding through the tattva of a guru. The guru, that is that infinite, that field of knowledge, pure knowledge. I will give you from that. And this exploration, I don't think anywhere in any session this has been done. So he talks it in a different way. The same sutra, dukkha traya abhigatat. Now here is the beauty. The word dukkha, while Ishvara Krishna talks about it as pain, misery, all this, which the society at that time was facing, dukkha for sage Kapila meant stress, as in physics, as in mathematics, as in science. Whenever there is a stress, internal stress of three principles, he says, whenever there is a stress due to the interaction of three principles, and when you investigate into this, you will discover that, he says here, he says, the triple stress interaction, drishte sa apartha chenna. Now, detect such, it would have been meaningless to detect were it not for the investigation into the, and he uses a beautiful word here, synchronized, perpetual, dynamic, unmanifest state. He is talking about synchronized, perpetual, self-manifest, oscillatory, dynamic state. by the time we came to the Vedas, they called this the Brahman. A name was given. Rishi Kapila didn't even bother to give it a name. He said it is a mathematical thing. He said it is pure mathematics and physics. The very starting word dukkha by Ishvara Krishna goes into one tangent, which even today, if you Google all of internet, you will get dukkha meaning pain, suffering, misery. But the tattva of a living master guides us in another direction, where the whole truth of creation, the knowledge of creation, can just come by understanding that word, dukkha. Dukkha is, in the Sanskrit, it means that also. It means internal stress. And that internal stress is something he is talking about, physical, mathematical, chemical laws. When the first protein and lipids came together to form a membrane inside and outside, they formed one circle and life started. We say life started. Rishi Kapila says that is just the expression of the internal stress in the equation or in the chemical mix that was there. It's just, and he says these three, what are these three? We will explore. He says the entire universe of creation, our role in it, who am I? What am I doing here? Where will I go after death? Where did I come from? What is my purpose in life? Everything will get explained in a mathematical, logical way. And the whole of Sankhya Sutra is mathematics. I have no idea. Hari here, who is one of our Mandalavatika teachers, he has explored, and it is very high advanced mathematics. You know, it is into tensor calculus and all that. That is there. Actually, I am not joking. I will show you how this Rishi Kapila's Sankhya Sutra, I am not talking about Sankhya Karika of Ishvara Krishna. Rishi Kapila's Sankhya Sutra is pure mathematics. And mathematically, he will explode the truth of the creation of the universe, because universe was created mathematically. Mathematics is the knowledge of, is the language of God. That's what people say. He says universal intelligence doesn't need anything else in it, because of the interactive stress of three principles, that unmanifest, dynamic, oscillatory substratum. In Nasadiya Sukta, we explored this. That Gahanam Gabhiram, then that Gahanam Gabhiram, there is that something. Nothingness. Shunya. He says, when there is stress, internal stress, between the three things that actually are unmanifest in that substratum, that principle, has a beautiful definition. We might call it Brahman if you want. He says, when that stress happens, then creation happens. That's it. And then sukta by sukta, stanza by stanza, he peels how this happens mathematically. No other text in our philosophies comes anywhere close to this. So, this is just to give you, there is one interpretation which talks about life and misery and heart and pain and all the suffering and all that. And then there is the other one, which only the living master can direct us to explore, where it is pure math. So we will now, this is just a starting. Right now, Rishi Kapila has not even touched the iceberg. He has just taken the word dukkha and blown it apart. He said, dukkha has got nothing to do with you, man. It has got nothing to do with the pot. Dukkha is the space, the internal stress in that space which creates. That is dukkha. And he gives the mathematics of that dukkha. So as we go every month, one session, we will peel. 68 are there. 68 shlokas are there in the sukta. And we will peel one by one, like an onion, we will peel, and then we will explore this. It will take time just for you to understand. Dukkha itself was a starting point. From there, Ishvara Krishnas went in a different direction. Rishi Kapila had something in mind, something else in mind, because he knew he was infinity. He knew it. From that space, he wrote the Sukta. He revealed the Sukta as a encrypted, like in your WhatsApp, everything is encrypted. He gave this encrypted knowledge because he doesn't want it to fall into wrong hands. So he gave it as encrypted knowledge, and people kept making commentaries depending on what time of the society it was, what time of the society, what kind of society there was. They interpreted that encrypted knowledge to suit the need of that society. So nothing wrong with Ishvara Krishna. He did what he had to do for that society, but we have our living master, Pujya Gurudev, who can allow us to go deep into that. And that is what we are going to do for the next 68 months. So it's a long time it will take, but it is worth the wait. Each session you will see, it will blow your mind. So I don't think we got really much questions here, but what is your process of experience the big mind at will? At will only, because there is that concept of time. I will speak about it some other time. Some other time. So we will do that. So we will address that questions, but let me just see. I will try to answer this. Oh, this is coming from Shilpa. Okay, I will answer this. Yeah. So we will keep doing this, and thank you all so much for being a part of this. Ultimately realize Sankhya Karika is actually the theory of manifestation. It will tell you how to manifest. It does not tell you how to manage pain, misery. Then what is our understanding? Oh, understand that you're not the body, you're not the mind. Therefore, you don't experience pain, you don't experience. Understand that every failure is a learning. All these things are for that society's understanding. He doesn't believe in all that. He says you are infinity, you will manifest. Whatever you want, you can manifest. This is a theory of manifestation. And he gives you the mathematical tools to do it. So it is extraordinary. I mean, there is nothing that will come close to this. So we will wait for our first Sunday of March, when I will be with you again to explore just that first 2 lines. Yeah. So thank you all for being on this wonderful Basanta Panchami day, and we will continue this exploration further. Om Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Jai Gurudev.